Good afternoon and welcome to our Facebook Live event. My apologies for the 15-minute delay. As you can appreciate, if anything can go wrong, it will. Good afternoon once again and welcome to our conversation. This afternoon we are discussing Community Risk Reduction Week 2023. Before we go into the activities for the week, I'm going to give a brief overview of how we became involved in this endeavor. CRR, which is Community Risk Reduction, is based generally on 5 E's. And the 5 E's are education, economic initiative, and of course, engineering, enforcement, and emergency response. This year is the first year that the Bajan Firefighters Charity has embarked on this endeavor. We pretty much embraced the 5 concepts of risk reduction, and we set out to do a number of things during the course of the week. The primary activity that was conducted this week was our risk assessments in the community, and we did 2 of them. The first was in the Nelson Street and Wellington Street and the surrounding areas. And I'm going to share with you some of what we were looking for during our walkthrough of those communities. Primarily, we were looking to see if there were fire hydrants in the area, if there were an adequate number of fire hydrants, and if there were any other special risk that we were unaware of. We did find that there are a number of derelict buildings within the Nelson Street, Wellington Street, and surrounding areas. And one of them that was a primary concern to us is a 2-story building at the corner of Nelson Street and King William Street. There are visible signs of the building is cracking near the top, and it could be a potential danger to pedestrians and motorists traveling along that thoroughfare. Outside of that, we did observe that there were a number of utility poles that were leaning in that general area, and of course the information that was collected during our visit to the area will be passed on to the relevant authorities. There are some challenges as well. Parking on the main streets. And you can appreciate that if people are parking on the street and the fire department has to respond, we could have some challenges trying to get and maneuver our apparatus into the area to effectively combat the outbreak of a fire. So we do understand that the residents in the area are challenged in terms of having adequate parking spaces. But one suggestion that we could possibly make is that some of the derelict buildings that are in the area could possibly be demolished and temporary parking spaces be created. Now, it is not the mandate to actually, of the fire department or our charity, to undertake such endeavors, but we can speak with the relevant authorities with a view to actually having a look at what can be done to mitigate the parking actually on the street. We are happy to report that unlike previous occasions, the amount of garbage that used to be actually on the street in those areas has been non-existent now. We couldn't find any piles of garbage on the street, and we must commend the SSA for the endeavors that they've undertaken to ensure that all of the residents in the area have their garbage bins, and now the problem of illegal dumping on the street has been mitigated. And kudos to the SSA on that. Our second undertaking was in the area of Gills Road and Greenfields, and we saw some of the same challenges there. And mind you, these communities were selected because we are mindful that based on historical data, these communities are very prone to have frequent outbreaks of house fires. So we are concerned that the level of risk in those areas needs to be addressed. During our tour of the Greenfields area, the residents there pointed out to us two very large trees that apparently are termite infested, and there is a potential danger of these trees coming down onto their homes or even falling across the roadway and causing an obstruction. So we will pass on to the relevant authorities that bit of information. I am happy to report that based on our visit to the Nelson Street, Wellington Street, and its environs, we did observe a good number of fire hydrants within that locale. So that concern is diminished. We do have adequate fire hydrants within the Nelson Street, Wellington Street, and surrounding districts in that general locale. We did also see hydrants in the Greenfields area, though not as many, but should a fire occur, we know that there are a number of hydrants there that the firefighters can use to provide water to combat any outbreak of fire there. So these are the things that we were generally looking at, what risk existed in those areas. So you have your fire hydrants or lack thereof, you have your trees that are termite infested, you have your derelict buildings that are rodent infested, you have the challenges of parking on the roadway, and of course, we were also trying to ascertain if there were persons in the communities that were disabled, and we were unable to, at least in the Nelson Street area, Wellington Street area, we were unable to locate any persons that were disabled. So, but we have found at least two of them in the Greenfields area. But the risk assessments will continue in neighborhoods that we believe have the high potential risk of outbreaks of fire. And of course, if you are a resident in a district community and you are aware of any hazards, feel free to report them to the fire department, or if you want to discreetly forward an email or a message to the charity, we can look into such challenges. Going through the walkthroughs, we did not discover any open wells. We tried our best to go through into the areas that are not normally traversed, and thankfully during those two areas we did not observe any open wells or any wells that appear to be compromised, broken covers, that kind of thing. So all in all, we had 2 days of successful endeavors into the community, and I want to assure you that such activity is going to continue. It is part of what we believe to be our mandate, We are very much into public safety, and our charity is going to continue to have these endeavors where we are actively looking into anything that could be of potential risk to the community. We look forward to also partnering with other organizations who are like-minded and carry a concern for public safety. We already have an established working relationship with the DEOs, and like I said, any other community-based organization that is interested in public safety and the general well-being of communities, we're always willing to work with and partner with. If you have any questions this afternoon regarding community risk reduction, I'll take your questions, but of course I'm going to share going forward this year some of the endeavors that we're going to continue as far as trying to build on community risk reduction. And we do believe that we have a responsibility to educate the public and to also build awareness as it relates to community risk reduction. We are a small island, and you can appreciate that Barbados has numerous challenges that we have to work to counter. At this time, we're still in the throngs of the COVID pandemic. Despite we are well on the way to recovery, we still are mindful that COVID is still with us. And of course, we encourage you, the public, to continue to exercise caution and to follow the guidelines and protocols that are outlined by our local Ministry of Health and of course the government by extension. So if you have any questions, we look forward to receiving them. And I want to take this opportunity as well to convey our sincere thanks to all of the residents who came out, who spoke with us, who provided us with information, and who were generally very welcoming to our teams as we went into their communities and their backyards, of course. I also want to give a special shout out to the principal of the St. Ambrose Primary School, Miss Stacy Drakes, and her team for doing a fantastic job with the children there. And of course, the concerns that were raised during our brief meeting have been noted, and we look forward to continue working with you to ensure that your concerns are adequately addressed, and of course to provide you with the relevant resources that can enable and empower you to better execute the task of training and of course empowering the youth of our country. We eagerly look forward to launching our Youth Explorer program this year. We'll be doing all in our power to ensure that that comes off successfully, and the kids can look forward to that fantastic time during the summer vacation. I think that we momentarily dropped out just now. Internet connection seems to be a little bit unstable this afternoon. Nonetheless, we will continue. Once again, if you have any questions or concerns regarding public safety in your community, open wells, leaning power lines or poles, if you have any derelict buildings that are in danger of collapsing, you have any fire hydrants that are covered or obstructed, we want to hear from you on that. And of course, we are taking this opportunity to solicit the support of all of the community-based organizations as it relates to helping the charity and of course the fire department to locate our fire hydrants across the island. You can appreciate that from time to time, the fire hydrants sometimes are covered up during road renovations, and sometimes during excavation work, the fire hydrants become obscured by debris. And if you are in a community and your fire hydrant has been covered up or is no longer functioning, you need to let the fire department know so that the appropriate remedial action can be taken, because it's very important to have fire hydrants that are working within the community. It's your lifeline, especially when we're combating house fires. The fire tender will arrive on scene with water, but you can appreciate that depending on the length of that fire and the firefighting operations, we may be required to replenish the tender on scene, and that's why it's so important to have a working fire hydrant in your community. So if you're in a district and your fire hydrant is covered up, it's obscured, or it's not working, you need to communicate that as a matter of urgency to your fire department. So once again, if you have any questions or concerns about the risk assessment or what we're doing in the community, feel free to ask, and we will try our best to address your queries this afternoon. But I want to thank all of those persons that came out and gave their support to the endeavor, and it will be continuing in other communities across the island as we set about to make things safer for our citizens across the island. Do we have any questions this afternoon? And of course, let me also take this opportunity to extend a very warm invitation to our young people. For those persons out there who have the time and you are sincere about volunteerism, we invite you to join the charity, to give of your time and your skills, of course. For those of you who may not have any skills, we have persons who are willing and able to teach you. All you have to do is come with an open mind and a burning desire to learn. We have an ongoing first responders training program, and I'm happy to report that this year that training program will continue, so the required skill sets can be developed. We need to have more trained persons at the community level across the length and breadth of our island. So the 4-H movement, the Key Club, the Church Brigade, any community-based organization, and you are desirous of having first responder training, feel free to reach out to the Bajan Firefighters Charity, and we will connect with you and try our best to schedule some training for you. The training is pretty much free of cost, and you will leave that program with some very important skill sets that can serve you your entire lifetime. So once again, our conversation this afternoon is about the Community Risk Reduction Week. We are now at the end of that week, and I want to report that it was a productive week and that our risk assessment program will continue in other communities across the island, especially those that we do believe there is a high prevalence of house fires. In some districts, we have a higher risk than others. The reason why we chose the Nelson Street, Wellington Street, and its environs is because the housing stock there is very close together. The houses are actually very, very close to one another. And many times when you have a house fire in these areas, you tend to get more than one structure being burnt or even destroyed during the blaze. The same challenge exists in the Greenfields area, and that's why we are giving special attention to these neighborhoods. We look forward to coming to the areas of New Orleans very, very soon, because that area is also another area where the houses are very close to one another, and we need to know what the challenges that exist in those areas are. So you can look forward to seeing us there very soon. If you live in the New Orleans area, we will be coming to you shortly to see what the challenges that exist in that area as it relates to the community. So once again, if you have any questions or concerns, or you know of any special risk in your area and you want to communicate that to the charity or the fire department, feel free to do so. You can contact us at 833-8184, or you can just send us an email at info@bajanfirefighters.org. And of course, any information that you communicate with us will be kept in the strictest of confidence, and we will be working on your behalf to try to mitigate those concerns. As mentioned during our recent visit to the two areas mentioned, we did observe a number of issues, and we are going to be working with the various stakeholders to try to mitigate those issues. And of course, my heartfelt thanks to the residents of Nelson Street, Wellington Street, and the surrounding area, as well as the residents of the Greenfields area during our two-day visit to those areas. I want to thank you for giving us your time and, of course, sharing with us the hazards that you were aware of in your community. We will be taking action and trying our best to assist you with those situations that were outlined to us. I won't take much time this afternoon. The whole object of this conversation was to give you some insight into what we did during those 2 days, and as mentioned, to address the hazards that we observed during our tour, and to let you know that we will be taking action, and we've already started to work with the relevant agencies to address the concerns raised during the risk assessment. So if we don't have any questions at this time, this Facebook Live event will be coming to a close. Like I said before, you can contact us at 833-8184, or just email us at info@bajanfirefighters.org. I thank you.